Hello, I am so excited to be talking to you all today. I have Dr. Ilona Rodan and Dr. Sarah Heath, who are among the very most accomplished veterinarians of our time. I'm not kidding. These are the ladies who actually wrote the books that we all refer to get our knowledge. And their work has opened our eyes to an amazing fact. Cats' behavioral well-being directly affects their physical well-being. This fact is arguably the most critical health crisis facing cats and the people who love them. So thank you so much for taking your time to be with everyone today. We here in Internetosphere call this Catterday. And I can't think of a better way to spend a Catterday than with two people who are really and truly changing the world. So you guys have opened my eyes. And the words that I said could seem hyperbolic to a lot of people. You know, that's crazy. What about diabetes, obesity, kidney disease, urinary disease? We really focus on urinary disease all the time. Tell me what you think.
Those are really interesting examples you've just given there, Liz, because every single one of those, I'm thinking, oh, there's emotion involved in all of those. Right. So you cannot get away from the fact that emotional, physical, and cognitive health are part of one triad of health. It's only one thing, healthcare. And actually, if you look at the WHO definitions of healthcare, they actually say that health is about that combination of your physical and your emotional well-being. And it's exactly the same, whatever mammal you are or whatever animal you are. It doesn't matter if you're a human or a cat. There's no difference between us in the fact that our health has got these three dimensions to it. And so you just gave examples. Obesity, you just said. Well, obesity is a brilliant example of a healthcare problem, an actual crisis in the feline population at this moment, which is it's a health condition, it's a disease, but it also has an emotional component to it as well. So phenomenally important to know they're inextricably linked. You can't take one away from the other.
So Ilona, why do you think, I mean, I totally agree. Well, I agree because I follow all your work. You've shaped my life. But why do you think that we have such a hard time not dealing with this? We want to focus on the medical side, and we have done a brilliant job. I mean, let's take obesity. There's lots of foods that are proven to make a difference. And yet the crisis is getting worse every single year. When we talk about that list again, medically, we have lots of solutions and the problems are getting worse. So if behavior is the linchpin, why can't we deal with it? What's the problem?
Such a good point. And to Sarah, what Sarah said is so true. And what the problem is people don't recognize the cat's emotions and the cat's behaviors. A lot of the times there's subtle changes in a cat's behaviors, and unless there are obvious behavior problems, owners don't really realize it and recognize it. So the cat comes in with a urinary tract problem or obesity, which is stress associated, and that's what the veterinarian sees. We as veterinarians have been trained to work on physical disease, but not to recognize the emotional component. It's getting better, but it's still a problem.
And so what do you think the first step is to get both the veterinarians who haven't had the training and the public to begin to open their eyes? If someone's watching this for the first time and they're thinking, I really don't get it, where should they start?
I think one of the things is terminology, actually, Liz. I think it's a problem calling it behavior, because behavior springs up in people's minds, well, mainly dog training, to be honest. Yeah. In the cat world, brings up we can't do anything about that because it's a cat. So behavior has some connotations as a word. And obviously we call it behavioral medicine, the discipline in veterinary medicine. We call it behavioral medicine. And I think that's really important that we talk about, we add that word. We say behavioral medicine, not behavior. I'm not a behaviorist. I'm a vet who works in behavioral medicine. I'm a behavioral medicine specialist. And I think that's really important. The other thing is to talk about emotion. not to talk about behavior, but to talk about emotional health. So what Ilona was just saying then was there's an emotional component to these things, and to think about the fact that emotion is part of your health. And maybe as humans, we can identify more with that terminology. Whereas if we talk about, oh, it's cat behavior, they go, oh, that's kind of what they do. And that's kind of what, not just natural cat stuff. And they're cats. So nobody can change that because a cat is so independent and so non-controllable and all those images. Whereas if we talk about emotional health and we say what we're talking about here is how the animal is in terms of the emotion impacting on their body, and rather than talking about behavior, I just think terminology, as you know, Liz, we've known each other a long time, I really think words are incredibly important.
I couldn't agree more. And one of the things when I first started learning about behavior was how loaded with judgment most of the words that we use to talk about behavior are, and that when you come to the table with all those judgment words, you can't help but have so many preconceived notions. So in so many ways, it's like learning a new language. So that you can start from an open mind, which is really, really hard.
Yeah, really.
I think that's right. You need to start with an open mind. We need to think about the health and welfare of that animal and bring that back into veterinary schools, into all our continuing education. I mean, when you think about this cat comes in, we need a good history. What is going on in the home that's causing these problems? And going from that perspective, I mean, our history that's where everything is at. And we start asking, how are the cats getting along? What are the stressors in the household? And we were going to come up with a lot of answers and not have these recurrent urinary tract problems that are related to stress, recurrent upper respiratory infections, or obesity. Obesity is hugely related to how cats are fed as well as the diet. It's not just changing a diet, it's also having to change how cats are fed.
All those things involve the pet parent themselves.
Yeah.
So when I think about you, the veterinarian, asking me about the stressors in my house, I feel judged. I think that's what a lot of veterinarians don't want to go there. Obesity too, because human beings are having issues with weight management, and it feels awkward to talk about your obese cat if the owner is obese. And in so many ways, I almost think we need a script and to role play so that we can advocate for the pet with. It's really the communicator's preconceived notion as well. I don't want to offend. Where we really need to start from a different place. And that's why this conversation is just so important to me and to so many, because when we realize that the physical changes that we are seeing, particularly in cats, are having their root in the behavior, we are not going to fix the physical changes with just medicine. We're just not. So
I think one of the things as well there is that word stress. We have to be really careful of that word because it has such negative connotations. And I agree with you, Liz. I think you see the shutters come up as soon as you start to use that word. So trying to talk about the fact that when they have these disease processes, saying things like, I'm sure when you've been worried about something, maybe you've had problems, you've had a bit of a dicky tummy when you've been feeling a bit worried about something, maybe you've done an exam or something and you might remember, wow, that queue for the toilet when there's an exam coming up. And that's sort of just talking about something in more human terms, which isn't judging. There's nothing wrong with needing to go to the bathroom when you're about to take an exam. That's absolutely normal. But it kind of highlights that this is normal for your emotions to affect the way your body works. And therefore, if this animal's coming in for one of these types of conditions, to raise that question and say, we know what this is. This is, let's take interstitial cystitis. This is interstitial cystitis. I can treat it as a veterinarian. I know what to do for this, but I need to just also think, why has this happened more than once? This is the second time your cat's come in with this condition. So we need to just think about, is there something else? We don't want to miss anything. We want to make sure that we're getting to the root cause of this. We don't want your cat to have to come in again. And, you know, sometimes when you're not feeling 100% emotionally, when you're feeling a bit challenged about things, sometimes your body doesn't work so well. And therefore, I want to just look at whether there's anything that could potentially be making your cat feel a bit troubled or a bit worried. I think worried, troubled, rather than stressed.
Right.
As soon as you say stressed, I think people, like you say, Liz, feel judged and feel, oh, that's my fault. I must be doing something bad. I must be making my cat feel bad. Whereas if you can try and sort of change that conversation around, so you're talking about it from the cat's perspective and how the cat might be feeling. And I know that's something we've struggled with as a profession, to talk about the fact that the animals we deal with, the non-humans, have feelings, but, you know, newsflash, they do. And those emotions are incredibly important for us to talk about. And
you know, we met this summer, this past year at the World Behavior Conference, which I believe you founded, Sarah.
Well, myself and Daniel Mills, who Daniel Mills is professor at Lincoln University, the two of us founded the International Veterinary Behavior Meeting. A long time ago.
So important.
It's a biannual event.
Incredible progress has been made by bringing all of those minds from around the world to one place. And one of this, I refer to what I learned there in so many instances, but one of the things that was so interesting for me was we talked about the eye muscles of the brow of dogs. Not surprising that golden retrievers have the most muscles of facial expression and use their expression very similarly to the way people use their expression. So we feel we understand them, so they must be smart. Whereas cats really have bad close-up vision, and communicating with their facial expression is not necessary for them. They communicate with scent and body posture and many other things. So they don't have well-developed muscles of facial expression. We try to read the muscles of facial expression. And since we are getting nothing, we presume they have no feelings. And I was just like, wow. I mean, isn't that amazing? So in the lives that we lead, we're much more compatible with reading. That we still have problems, but we read dogs better, and our lives are more structured to meeting their needs. So I just did too much talking, but can you guys explain?
Yeah, what you said is amazing. I mean, and that's where we need to start. And I so agree with terminology is so important, and never to use the word stress, but how's your cat doing? Using open-ended questions to say, how are things going at home, and relating it to human disease. We know in humans that stress can impact disease. And we just want to make sure that there's nothing going on at home that might be bothering your cat. And so I think that's good. Getting back to, go ahead.
We can't hear you, Liz.
How about now?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
So I was trying to mute my howling dog. There's a siren, and he loves to howl at sirens, which is adorable until you're on a call. But we talk about these stressors that are above and beyond the norm. So, typical, are you having construction? Is your schedule changing? Something massive. But really, those stressors start just in our every single day. How is our home constructed from a cat's perspective?
Also, just before we move on, I've got to just say something about dogs, just to stand up for them, because I do behavioral medicine with dogs as well. But they sadly are very, very badly understood as well, and there are different challenges to them. But I think what you were pointing out there is so important, that there are such species differences, and I think we assume a lot of things in the cat world, like you can't control them, you can't understand them, they're mysterious, they have this independence, you can't interfere with that. Whereas with dogs, we think we can influence, and therefore we come from a different starting point. But I really don't want people to think there aren't problems for dogs, because they're really.
I would love for you to come back and talk for the whole hour about dogs. I just saw another video like yesterday of a toddler right up in the face of a dog that was being celebrated as so adorable. And I'm just waiting for that toddler to be attacked.
There's actually an advert on telly at the moment here in the UK for a bank which is involving a dog, and the dog is being held and it's actually growling in the advert, and they've still left it in, and you go, wow. So, but we're not talking about dogs today, so I didn't want to hijack it on the dogs, but just because you'd mentioned them, I just wanted to make sure we say that they have issues communicating with us too. It just that I think we come from a different place with cats because we have a lower expectation that there's anything we can do. So I think cat clients maybe are less likely to broach subjects of behavioral change or worry about their animal's emotional health because they see that as something that maybe vets would think, well, it's a cat, I can't do anything about that aspect. And that's what's so important, is to get the message out that yes, we can. And it is important to understand cats more because they are fundamentally different. And therefore, any commonality stuff we might think we have with dogs, I'm not going to say we do, but we think we have, that's not there with cats. So it's very counterintuitive to behave in a way that a cat finds favorable. Would you agree, Ilona?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think your point is so good. I mean, dogs absolutely have problems, but cats are less understood. And so they are social animals, but they are not social the way dogs are and the way people are. And I think that's one of the main reasons that they're so misunderstood. You know, so if you see a cat that's staring at another cat or blocking that other cat, a person is not going to recognize those subtle signs of communication that they may recognize with a dog.
You know, I remember being a veterinary student, and I was so lucky that I had Dr. Karen Overall at Penn as my teacher. I mean, that's like winning the lottery as a student. Yeah. And this is, you know, I just had my 20th anniversary yesterday of graduation, so it was a long time ago. Thank you. And I remember her showing us cat videos for the first time of behavioral interactions. And she said, now, which cat is causing the trouble? And uniformly, we picked the wrong cat.
Yes.
Because what we as humans see is the cat reacting is the cat who's causing the problem. And it takes a lot of education and understanding the body language ways that cats communicate with each other to see the other cat had been so aggressive in cat speak that when the other cat finally reacts, they're actually a victim that is acting like a perpetrator. It's very counterintuitive.
Yeah, I think the other thing is that cats are solitary units. So there isn't really a victim and a victor because both of them are suffering. So again, that's something we find really difficult because we want there to always be a victim and a winner. That's always our mentality. But if you think about cats being socially non-obligate, so it means they don't need to be social to survive, but every encounter you see between two cats, they are both looking out for their own survival. It isn't about their judgment of the other cat or their relationship with the other cat. And it's not that one of them is necessarily absolutely fine and the other one's suffering. They're often both suffering. They're both struggling. They're just not able to communicate well with each other. They both have different needs, and they're both just trying to survive. But often there is not a victim and there isn't a winner.
I think that jumping off point is human beings we just can't even understand that. We are so we use isolation as a punishment.
Yes.
So we really have a hard time I'm going to use a lot of fancy words, but using the paradigm that being solitary is the advantage. Being solitary is what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And even more counter is the human drive to have lots and lots of pets, which without realizing how hard that is for the cats. Can you, like, again, if someone's never heard any of this before, start to explain more about what that means for cats?
Yeah, it's such a problem because so many cats are having conflict in the households, and the signs of the conflict are so subtle that people don't recognize it. Unless a cat is going outside the litter box, or they are starting to overgroom or do something else, have urinary tract problems, people aren't recognizing that there's challenges between those cats. And often they don't have enough resources, they don't have enough litter boxes, food, places to eat, and water. And people are so social that they feed cats together. They assume they can have their litter boxes together. And so it's not that, I mean, people aren't wrong because they're not caring. They care a lot. They just don't understand the cat. And that's not an owner's fault. We as veterinary professionals need to learn to understand cats better. And that's going to be through education.
Yeah.
It's worth just pointing people in the direction of the ISFM AAFP guidelines. So that document, I think, is incredibly important. It's very easy to read. It's really, I send it quite frequently to my cat clients as a document for them to read after we've had our discussion, after I've explained things to them. I say that this is a paper from a journal, but I really recommend you read it. And I think you'll find it helpful. And so many of my clients are like, wow, that's just, it's really put it in nice, succinct language. And the 5 pillars concept, that there are 5 fundamental things that cats absolutely need in order to optimize their environment. We're back to my words, but I really dislike the word enrichment. And I don't use it at all when I'm talking to clients. I talk to them about optimizing their cat's environment, which just means meeting their basic needs. This is not, it looks like we're doing lots. It looks like we're being really extra. Oh, there's a bit of a fuzz on the line.
Sorry.
Yeah, I wonder if it was my end. That's coming across the pond. It's wondered if it was the international connection that's gone. Yeah, so just this idea that they have these needs. So if you do this stuff, if you provide elevated resting places and suitable ways of feeding and stuff, you're not enriching, you're not doing something that gives you a pat on the back and a gold star, and you're just doing the basics. You're optimizing, you're making it the right environment for the cat. You're not making it in some way superior.
So I'm going to put those guidelines as a link below this talk, so it's easy to find. And I will also put a link to where I squish them into bullet points. They're squished in bullet points in that document too. But whichever format people can digest to get more information with more description, or like just the facts, ma'am. We'll have a couple of different options there, but it is so important. Can we run through them quickly? Because we're really talking about baseline. So I'm going to just give a quick example. My daughter Reese is 10, and she is having the best time with our pets during this lockdown time. It's been so amazing for her, and watching her with them is just wonderful. And so she wants more. And she's decided that she wants a chameleon.
Okay.
So I, as a parent who's also homeschooling, told her that I don't homeschool for real. I just did this lockdown. I wanted her to research what do they need to eat? How do they need to eat? How big does their enclosure need to be? What sort of daily activities do they need to keep happy? Is there anything else about humidity, temperature, water? And I want you to make me a PowerPoint presentation so that we really understand if we're the right home for that chameleon, because it's not just about getting to hold and play with a creature. What we're talking about is we need to give them the life that they deserve. And can we do that? We got to understand what it is. And then, is that right for us? And she's like, ugh, but she went and did it. And before she made the PowerPoint, she had collected all her research, and she came downstairs and said, this is not the right we can't make it happy the way we live. We're not going to have that level of commitment. And now we're talking about getting a second cat. And so you can imagine she's going to be doing a research project on what it's like to bring another cat into your house, what their needs are, and how, if we're going to make that choice, how we're going to do it in a way that serves the cats, not us. And ultimately, the thing to know is, if you serve the cats, you are serving yourself.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Because if you're giving them the life that they need, they're going to be the pet that you want. I'm sorry, Plankton. This is my dog Plankton, who's making himself known. Come here, buddy. And dogs and cats together and all that stuff. But I, again, talk too much. Tell me, so for someone who's saying, like, what? I got to do a research project? I just wanted a cat. Don't cats need homes? Can you tell me why it matters, and what are they?
So why it matters is because cats will not have a good environment. They will not have the welfare that they need and feel safe in the environment if they don't have those needs met. And the first one is having a safe resting places, that they can have perches or safe places, cat beds, cardboard boxes that they can rest in and feel safe in and sleep in without people bothering them. I think
what's different about that than my sofa? Like, I have a computer right here next to me. I'm resting. Why can't it just be on my sofa? What makes a good cat resting place?
Well, it can be on your sofa. That can be a choice, but good resting places usually allow cats to have a space just for themselves. So it's big enough for them alone, and that they can feel hidden from other cats if they so choose, or a dog or a child. And so this is really hugely important, and to have it in all places in around the house that they like to be in or that they have access to. I think one problem that's really huge right now is that we have the stay-at-home orders, and people are very social people. It's a social animal, and they want to hug and cuddle and do all these things, and they can't do it with other people except with those if they have people in their home. So cats are being touched and hugged more and coddled more, and often not at their choice. It's not their choice to have that.
So the human instinct when I need love, and I'm going to get it from my cat, so I'll go drag them out from under the bed so that I can cuddle it. Can you explain what the cat is perceiving in that moment?
Probably fear, frustration. What are they taking me away from where I need to be, where I want to be? I don't have control over this. And so that gets down to the fourth pillar, and I can let Sarah talk more, but about the human interactions needing to be consistent and familiar and in ways that cats want them to be.
So like, I'm kind of
having a cat choose to come to the owner, interact with the owner when they want to, instead of it being the owner's idea when it's going to be.
So I'm kind of obsessed with telling people what to do, because I think telling people what not to do also leads to confusion. So here I am. I've been spending my afternoon watching the news, and I'm just feel like the world is ending and I need a cuddle. So I used to go and grab my cat from under the bed and drag it out and cuddle it, and then it would scratch me and run away. What could I do better when I need it? What should I do? If I'm getting that love, how should I go get it?
I'm going to start a line in teddy bears, as I think teddy bears are wonderful things, and more people should have more of them, because we do need something soft and cozy to cuddle, and that's absolutely right. And teddy bears shouldn't be for children; they should be for adults, because I think the whole point is that actually most of the species we share our lives with don't use cuddling in the same way that humans do. So for humans, that close physical contact is something that we perceive as being very affectionate, very positive, aiding our welfare, and we should cuddle. I mean, I don't know the research in humans, it's something like you must have a minimum of 4 hugs a day and an ideal number of 10 or something. And so it's really important that people have that tactile contact. It's been scientifically shown that you need it. And I'm not joking about the teddy bears. I really think they're an important part of adult life. If you don't have humans that you can be cuddling, you need to be holding something because that's part of your need. But that doesn't mean that other species should be fulfilling that need for us. There are other things that can do it. But that doesn't mean you can't have good social contact with your cat and you can't get benefit. So Ilona pointed out that letting them be in control is important. And way back in the University of Zurich, Dennis Turner, back in decades ago when he was doing research on this, he shows in a really important paper that actually if you let cats take the initiative of social contact, they will spend more time in your company than if you take the initiative. So when people actually, can you hear me above the rain noise?
It's gotten very fuzzy. Sometimes, unfortunately, if you log out and log back in, then we'll get, we can just reestablish the connection. I'm sorry, it's the limitations of technology right now.
Is it going again? But so Dennis Turner, back in the day, long time ago, very important research that looked at if cats can take the initiative. So if they are the ones who can come and talk to you rather than you go and talk to them. Ironically for people, because people kind of, it's counterintuitive, the cat spends more time in 24 hours in the company of those people.
So what we're saying is we need to have realistic expectations of what they need. And then if we can meet the realistic expectations of what they need, we're going to get more of what we need.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? Yeah. So we actually benefit from leaving them alone. And I think we see this in people who say, I hate cats, but they always like me. But what that person is actually experiencing is the more I leave cats alone, I let them control it. So the person who loves cats, when they walk into a house with a cat, oh my gosh, it's a cat, and want to go over and cuddle it, which seriously, Plankton, it couldn't be, come here, buddy. It couldn't be any more scary to the cat. Yeah. Whereas the person who doesn't like cats, doesn't look at them, doesn't go after them, doesn't engage with them, which is exactly what the cat wants. How do you rectify that for the I'm going to go on mute so we don't hear my dog. How do you rectify that for the average cat parent?
I think one thing is that you teach them what Dr. Turner said, the study showed, and teach them that you will have longer interactions, better interactions, if you allow the cat to choose when to come to you to interact. And it doesn't mean that you're avoiding the cat all the time. I think one of the things that we as people don't recognize is even adult and senior cats need to play at every day. And studies have shown that the more you play with cats, at least 5 minutes, a couple times a day, they will have less behavior problems. So you can take a wand toy and interactively play with that cat and do other things when you want interactions. I mean, you want the relationship. It's not just about cuddling and hugging, as Sarah said. The cat doesn't want to be hugged. Some do. I mean, there are differences in this social
completely
of the cats. And so some do like to be hugged and cuddled, but let them choose.
So if I'm desperate for my interaction right now, I could grab my wand toy, not fling it at its face, but maybe go near it and just flick it around a little bit. And what I found my cat really likes, it's the movement that changes, not like constant movement and not movement right at it. But her name's Phoebe. So if I flick the wand toy in her general direction, then leave it there, and then flick it a little bit and flick it a little bit, almost like, tugging a fishing line a little bit, that's what really gets her going. So if I'm desperate for that interaction, I should give that a go.
Absolutely. And really interesting there, what you just said. Remember that when you're using a fishing rod toy, we call it, one toy, same thing, that when you're using one of those toys, remember what you're trying to do is stimulate the desire-seeking system for predation. So you're trying to mimic predation. And have you ever seen a mouse or a bird run straight at a cat? So why would the toy coming at them mimic anything to do with predation? Because when they're predating things, those things are either moving away from them or parallel to them. They never run straight at the cat.
But so human beings want to, for instance, have a catch. Our interactions are very face-to-face. When you want to play, you kind of do that stuff.
Yes.
Right. So we have to understand exactly what we're trying
to do. What you're trying to do. You're trying to mimic predation. That's the point of the play. And also that it's not social play, it's object play. And so it's not about your involvement in it. It's your movement that's engaging the cat into the toy. But what you want to do is remember that what you're tapping into is a positive or an engaging emotional system. So that will increase the well-being of your cat. It also makes you smile, because when you see a cat pouncing on a toy and jumping after a toy, if you're a real cat lover, that should give you that buzz. It's a different buzz to a cuddle, but it's still a positive emotional burst for you as well to see that enjoyment. It's learning to take your pleasure from seeing your cat happy and engaged, not rather than necessarily being something that's a direct communication between you.
I don't think I've ever heard before, as much as I am literally eat, sleeping, and breathing cat behavior. I don't think I've ever heard before it stated that just the way you did, that play is about, it's not about a social interaction.
Even social play. There are two different forms, or lots of different forms of play. But emotionally, there's two different systems that you engage in when you're playing. One is the social play system, and one is object play through desire seeking. And cats as adults, so once they get to be over 2 to 3 years of age and they're socially mature, their motivation for social play is very minimal. But their motivation for object play through desire seeking is really high. And that's the one we want to tap into to engage with them in something that they enjoy. So
can you give a human analogy for that?
So social play would be playing a game of rugby. It would be a team sport. So it would be something that you engage in with others, where you're cooperating together. And it would be a form of play where you would use threat in a safe environment. So you tackle and you wrestle and you do scrums in rugby. So it's a part of social engagement, but in a safe context, but allows you to threat and be threatened safely. Whereas object play is where you're engaging with a thing, with an object. So something like playing bowls, that's object play. You can do it in a social context, but it's not social play. So each person rolls their bowl towards the jack independently and gets pleasure from whether their jack gets nearer than the other jack, but they're not actually physically engaging with the people in the game. Does that make sense? So one is a team sport. So you can still be social in object play. Social play is a very specific form of tactile play, which humans really love, dogs really love, horses really love, because they're socially obligate. And so social play is important to learn how to threaten and how to be threatened safely. But object play is more important if you're a solitary survivor like a cat, because it's how you rehearse predation.
I think that's mind-blowing information.
And just one more thing, sorry, Sarah, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry about the fuzz. There's a lot of fuzz, so I don't know if you hear that.
Yeah.
The only thing I wanted to add on to all that is to play with your cats individually, because they are solitary hunters. So we don't want to play with them together, but individually.
Absolutely.
So how do you carry that out? So if I have, I think we're going to get another kitten. Phoebe is 8 months old, so the kitten will be little. How would I carry that out?
You've just said something really important there about that age. So Phoebe is not yet socially mature, so she will still have some drive for social play. So it's actually what you're doing is good if you do want to bring another cat into a household, if you can do it before social maturity, well,
which is
cats 2 to 3 years of age. So if you can do that, you increase your chances of it being successful, but you don't guarantee it. Okay, you never guarantee it, because cats are solitary survivors, and there's never a guarantee, even with siblings, that they will maintain a social relationship. But if you're introducing them before social maturity, you're at least got that on your side.
And I really want to, I mean, I want to talk to you guys forever, and sort these things out forever. But I definitely want to come back to the multi-cat household and expectations, because it's a big mismatch between human beings and cats in that particular context. And even what to expect from a cat socially with human beings, do they miss me? Like all these things that we need so much. And there's, big articles in the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal of, does my cat miss me? Does my cat want me? It's so, the mismatch is really profound. And we, even in popular culture, even in the highest of resources, we just can't stop. But there's so much to talk about, but I wanted to go back to the resources. So we got safe place to rest. And I think, if I'm getting this right, it needs to be small-ish. So it's room for one cat, and they like that enclosed space. So a bed, here's my hands, a bed or a box or something where they can
have higher sides, so that they can feel like they are hidden if they want to be, if they want so choose. I actually like carriers as well as safe spaces, because that way the cat can be trained to the carrier. The carrier is not in the garage or the basement. It's up in the house, and it's a familiar place. And, people can toss a treat in and decide, let that cat choose to go into that carrier, rest in the carrier in a sunbeam or in a favorite spot.
So in a way, a carrier, under the right circumstances, is a positive. It's small, it's enclosed, and if the cat can choose whether to go in it or not, even be lured in it by a positive thing like a treat, that actually is a good space. So it's not the carrier that's the problem. It's the circumstances under which the cat perceives the carrier that's the problem.
Yes. I mean, if you are going to be shoved or pushed in or thrown into something, maybe even taken out from your favorite spot and dragged out and then thrown into this thing, yes, it's going to be terrifying.
And the only time that you ever see it is when that stuff's going to happen. It's like if you only ever saw a belt when you're going to be beaten with it. When someone then goes to put their pants on and puts a belt, grabs their belt, you're terrified. Even though the belt itself is relatively benign. It's the circumstances.
Yes.
Okay, so that's place. Tell me what's next. So beds, safe places to rest where they are respected and left to be. What's next?
All resources in multiple areas, so that the litter boxes would be, let's say, one on every floor, and then in different locations, but where cats do not see each other. So just as we don't like to have people see us when we toilet, cats also don't like to have another cat come and be curious about what is happening when they're toileting. So to have different locations for the litter boxes. It's really common for people to put all the litter boxes in the basement and to put them all next to each other, but they need to be in different locations where cats like to go, they feel safe to go, and that they can avoid another cat if they so choose.
Now, for most people, particularly if one person in the household is more enthusiastic about the cat than the other, that is a horror. So you've been talking with people about this for decades. What are your favorite main floor, bedroom area, living space spots to advise people to put a litter box that they find least objectionable?
The bathroom.
The bathroom.
That's the only thing that I've gotten to is the bathroom. They don't want it on carpet. They don't want it in bedrooms. It depends on the person though.
Yeah.
Do you feel that way, Sarah?
Yeah, it's very, very individual. And good point there, Liz, that it's very individual between family members too.
Yeah.
So there are certainly, often in families there are differences of opinion as this, because this resource distribution that Ilona's just talked about is for every resource. So every essential resource that a cat needs to survive, so food, water, resting places, litter trays, the ability to walk around their territory, the ability to get in and out. In the UK, most of our cats go outside as well, so entry and exit points into the garden for them to get access to outside. Those things are all resources. A resource is just anything you need in order to survive. So that's about resource.
So for a cat outside, if they were not living in a human home, they would find these things for themselves in nature. That's where they would choose their home. Like when we go shopping for a house, or real estate hunt for our house, we need the proper number of bedrooms, the proper number of bathrooms. We will have our criteria and then choose that. And so for a cat, they would choose those things about their home, and they would just find it in the natural world.
That's really nice, actually. These 5 pillars, apart from the human interaction, which obviously would be different if they were living not in contact with people, but the pillars, I love the idea that that's your what you take to your estate agent when you're looking for a house. It's like, I'm a cat, I want a house that gives me these 5 things, and that's what I'm looking for. That's a really nice way of thinking about it.
So a cat would never choose to live out in the open where they did not have safe hiding places or safe places to climb. They would not choose to live with a bunch of cats that they had never met before. And so when we think about it, it's sort of in the reverse. Like, what are we doing about our households that's actually wrong? I'm always trying to come up with analogies to help people understand how different it is. So, I'm sitting here in a beautiful house. I'm the luckiest girl in the world today. And we have the layout of bedrooms so that my very loud 16-year-old daughter is not near me because she stays up all night and clangs around. I got to choose that. But if we were in a studio apartment, we might fight a little bit more with her. So how you lay out the house really, really matters.
Well, I think it has to be 3-dimensional too, so that cats have perches and other places that they can go to, and that cats don't just live on one floor. On the floor, they're going up higher as well, and that'll increase the space, such as in a studio apartment or even in your house that is so beautiful, to have 3-dimensional space.
And there's gorgeous things. Every household has their priority, and there's economical things. There's things you already have that you just need to position correctly. But there's also, if you want to invest in it, like sculptural, amazing, beautiful things.
That's really important as well, Liz. What you just said is it does not have to cost a lot of money. So we can say, about fantastic furniture, and you can do amazing things to make an optimal cat house, but you can do it with cardboard boxes. You can do it with the feeding things. You can do with pieces of innards of toilet rolls and stuffed food inside them. There are so many things, and some of my clients are amazing in what they do. We just give them the ideas, we tell them what the cat needs, and oh my goodness, people can be absolutely amazing the way they can develop things from nothing. No cost.
Everyone's got different priorities. If the budget is your priority, this can be done easily.
Absolutely not that this is something you can only do if you've got money. That's not true. You can use pieces of furniture you've already got. You can position things to make sure that you provide more safety. Sensation of safety can be created by just physical barriers, just by moving a chair in a certain direction so that it blocks a viewpoint and means that the cat can feel safer. There's so many things you can do. Of course, you can spend a lot of money and you can buy amazing things, and there are incredible products on the market which are all helping to improve welfare, and they're great. But what I really don't want is my clients to ever feel that this is something, so in order to make my cat have a happy life, I've got to spend lots of money, and I've got no money. How am I going to do that?
And in the handout that I'm going to put below, I have bought solutions and homemade solutions. And also, if you're looking for one,
really well, right,
you can Google cat hacks, and you'll find.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
bookshelves.
my clients never cease to amaze me in how amazing they're amazing what they can do.
If you look around my kitchen right now, there are cardboard boxes and bags and other things, in addition to nicer, more expensive things, or just any shelf would work.
So we've got places to climb, places to hide. We talked about litter boxes being in multiple and separated places in the house, and that there needs to be a lot of them. One of my, I like to try to solve problems now by putting things on the market that haven't been done before to solve the problem. And litter boxes are killing me because there's reasons why we get what we get at the store. And I can bore you with why that is, but there's a real challenge to bring proper litter boxes into the consumer space. Can you explain what, through vast amounts of research, is shown to be where a cat wants to use the bathroom? In a house, specifically in the indoor environment.
Where it wants to use the litter box?
Well,
they want an open, big space around it, and they want a big. I mean, the boxes that we see are often too small. Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah. So they're too small. There's a lot of the things that humans want for a cat's bathroom is pretty much the opposite of what a cat wants for a cat's bathroom.
Right.
So I mean, I'm obsessed with trying to find analogies so that people can, or these metaphors so that people can understand it. But we're pretty much giving them a gas station, rest stop bathroom that hasn't been cleaned in, and that they can barely turn around in. And by the way, you might need to share that with some people you don't care for or have never met before. That's what we often provide them with.
That's right.
Whereas we all know we want that spa bathroom that is open and airy and clean and has all the that we need. And almost all of us want to be alone.
Right.
I know that people aren't bursting in. Any mother is just thrilled to go to the bathroom by herself. People bursting in, even if they're your very own children. So explain a cat's master bathroom.
So I would say it has to be very large. There's one study that says that litter boxes need to be 26 to 27 inches long, and they need to be able to get in. They want to
big,
long, and then wide enough that the cat can go in. It can sniff around. It can, if it wants to, scratch, turn around, and dig, do whatever it wants to do, and be able to spend that time solitarily by itself. The other thing I find is that often there are things put right next to the litter box, either noisy machinery or like a washing machine or dryer, or even just cabinets and boxes right next to the box. So the cat wants that space to walk in and out. It needs to have easy access that it can go in or out by two different ways at least. So if another cat is coming there, it can go out the other way if it so chooses. And it needs to be clean. It needs to be some type of material that it likes, such as sand, and without perfumes, and then to be cleaned regularly, at least once to twice a day, minimally, to be scooped. And
it's most humans' worst nightmare to clean a litter box.
Yes.
But you are giving your cat lots of reasons to use your clean laundry or your pillow if you don't clean twice a day. So we've got to think about, even though it's miserable, it might be 90 seconds of misery versus how long is it going to take you to redo that wash and get a new pillow and all that stuff. So just trying to find ways to incentivize ourselves in that moment when it's like, again, yes, again. But think about your laundry now only being needed to be washed and folded once.
Or your carpet. That's going to take a lot longer to clean.
So I promised you only an hour, and we have 8 minutes left. So I think you're going to have to come back every day for the rest of your lives. But we've got
company, great people. Yeah.
I'm in. Are you kidding me? I'm in. So we've got the litter boxes, places to climb, places to hide. Let's talk about feeding. This one is really hard for people. What is it? Oh, and a motorcycle, right? how does a cat want to eat? And how is that so hard for us?
I think little and often, and that's hard because so we like to have our food given to us at set times. We like to have a routine about it. We like it to be very predictable when food's going to be delivered. And cats don't. Cats are they eat according to the availability of prey in the wild. That doesn't come on a time budget. The mice don't turn up at 5 in the morning and 6 in the evening. They tend to be just random. And cats are little and often feeders. And also when I feel like eating, they eat in order to just fuel an activity. So they don't eat at specific times. That's not their natural feeding pattern. So I think that's probably one of the hardest things for us, because we are so motivated to meal feed. We like to meal feed everything because we are a nurturing species. And feeding of others is one of our primary nurturing behaviors. We love to feed people, feed dogs, feed cats, feed anything that can be fed, feeding the ducks when you're a child. Feeding is a really important nurturing behavior for a human being. And so to be uninvolved in feeding, which is actually what cats want to just get their own food when they feel like it, from around the house in varying locations, and not always in the same place and not always at the same time. They want us to back off and not be involved in the feeding process. That is so hard when you're a human and all you want to do is feed things.
And explain to me why providing a nice big bowl of food in the kitchen isn't a favor. Like, so yes, that's hard for them in the wild, and that's how they do it out there. But isn't it so much better in here when I can give you this great big bowl of food that you don't have to work for? Why am I not doing them a favor?
Ilona, do you want to take that one?
Go ahead, Sarah. Go ahead.
We're talking again about this optimizing, that we're optimizing an environment means getting the environment to be what you want it to be, not what others think you would like it to be. I could use lots of analogies of humans do like to extract other living things from environments that they consider to be inferior. Newsflash, not every single human being wants to live in the West. Not every single human being wants to live in America or the UK. Not every dog wants to live in, white Europe. That's not just because certain people have an idea that there are certain areas of the world which are optimal and therefore that's where everybody must want to live. That's not true. And other cultures and other ways of living are just as great and just as valuable and provide just as much well-being as our particular way of living. And it's the same when you're with a cat. Just because we would like to have somebody else dish us up a beautiful plate of gorgeous food and we had no work to do and we didn't have to do the washing up and we didn't have to do the cooking, and that would make us feel like, wow, someone really loves me because they've done that for me. That doesn't mean that a cat who is a different species views it as the same thing. And so as we started at the beginning, it's about looking at this from the cat's perspective. It's about optimizing an environment, meaning the optimal for that individual, not necessarily what we would look on and say, oh, that looks really lovely. It might not look lovely to us. It might look to us like hard work to go and find that food that's been hidden around the house, that's been put in puzzle feeders and different things that mean you have to work for it. But if you're a cat, that's actually what they get a real buzz from. They really love looking for food. They love finding food and then getting their way into, fighting their way into it, processing that food ready to eat it. That is part of their enjoyment. And therefore it's just not putting on my perception of what I think would be wonderful is always what every other human would think is wonderful, because that's not true, or every other species would think is wonderful, because that's not true.
So
I see that all the time where you give a cat food in a bowl And then you give cats food in a puzzle feeder, and you should try it. Everybody should try it at home, and to see the difference, how that cat is so much happier. They want to go after their food.
The one thing, though, that I will say is there is a period of learning. So when people already feel like this must be mean, if someone made me hunt for my food, this is abuse. Now, okay, you convinced me, I'm going to try. And I put the puzzle feeder down for the first time, and the cat sniffs at it and walks away. And so then I go over and rattle it like, look, this is great. And the cat leaves the room. And I'm like, I told them it wasn't going to work. And I just spent $19.95 for this thing. And look, the cat eats it. So no, my cat does like the bowl. Can you talk to me about why I need to have a different approach to that moment of learning that might last how long? And what kind of, how can I be a friend, doing the best I can for my cat and not feeling like I'm hurting it?
We can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
No.
All right.
Sorry.
I'm going to go away and come back. Am I? What do I do? Let's see what happened. Can you hear me now? Yes. Yes. Okay. Love technology. I'm actually going to hide Sarah. She's very goofy on my screen. I'll bring her back. See if that's better.
Okay.
So my question was for, oh, she's gone.
Oh, no.
Tragic. Oh, there's, so for the person who is learning, trying this for the first time, what are reasonable expectations for how to introduce puzzle feeding? Because what they're going to see the first time is their cat probably will sniff it and walk away. And then they feel like they've done the wrong thing, not the right thing.
Well, a lot of times if the owner just gets out of the way and gives that cat some time, it's about that cat's choice. That cat needs the choice to eat when it wants to eat and how it wants to eat. My biggest, what I see the most is that some of the puzzle feeders are pretty boring, such as the balls, and a little ball for a cat to get food out of is not very interesting. I think cats are smart, and they need something that's going to be more complex for them to work with, and then allow them to choose to eat when they want to eat. Not have that human interaction about, here, eat this now because you're supposed to like this.
And it's kind of hard because the more complex things are going to take them time to figure out, but then that's what they like better. So right. To understand their process, and then you're not doing them a disservice, you're actually loving them. I think that's a circumtuitous route for a human brain.
It is. And I think everything we do is so immediate, especially now with technology. We need to recognize it's a cat's choice, and they are frequent small feeders, and they may have just eaten, or they may not be hungry. Sometimes I will try to have people entice cats with a treat or a few treats when they're first starting to use a puzzle feeder to get that cat used to using it. But it's more about teaching the owner, if they went away and left the cat for 12 hours, they would see the cat is probably eating from that feeder.
So tell me what's boring in feeding to a cat, and what are the things that excite a cat?
Hunting, chasing, doing the normal eating. So the cats in the wild will, search for their food. Then they'll pounce on it and they'll chase it. They'll get their food and they'll take it to a safe place to eat. To be able to give that cat that ability to do that, puzzle feeders will be able to help that.
So the one thing that I'm kind of obsessed about, most puzzle feeders are stationary. And the opportunity for a cat to actually spend that time seeking is part of what they want.
That's right.
And then the option to pick that thing up and take it somewhere else is also an option that most cats really want.
That's right.
Things that they can't grab and move, are they too heavy? Is it plastic or rubber that they can't get purchase on to be able to move? We know that cats like choice. So having more than one is a great idea. But offering at least one that has the ability for seeking and being able to have that tactile moment with is really important.
It's really important. And I have to thank you, Liz, for making the indoor hunter feeder, because that really works well. The cat can pick it up. The cat can move it around and take it, and it can be hidden in different places. And that works very well.
So it's really hard for a lot of people to think, wait, there's going to be cat food crumbs in my bedroom? And the answer is, yeah, there are.
Yeah.
Cat food crumbs in your bedroom. So instead of having a cat that you didn't know, but your cat was sad, depressed, overweight, not interactive, and not using its brain, right, you're going to now have a cat that's active, happy, stimulated in the way that suits their species, and you might have some crumbs in your bedroom.
And you'll have less stress, less physical disease as well, because this cat is now happy. So the cat is emotionally happy. It's got good well-being. It feels good in every single way that Sarah was talking about, as well as the physical health.
I think we lost Sarah to the it's terribly sad. I appreciate her struggle trying to stay with us. But to tie this up, because I've already broken my promise of only keeping you an hour, we started by talking about how behavior and emotional well-being is critically linked to physical well-being. Oh, she's trying again, bless her. Let's see what we get. Blank screen again. I'm so sorry, Sarah. Yeah. We definitely would try again. I appreciate your valiant efforts. Can you just briefly tie back how that not having what you need to be normal for your species actually makes you sick? That is not an overstatement. It is not hyperbolic. Oh, there you are in ghost form. Oh no, this is like the Blair Witch Project of cats right now. I'm so sorry, Sarah. You've tried so hard. So go back for me for how these lack of meeting your resources actually causes physical disease.
Sarah, do you want to go ahead? I was talking while you were so how not having your needs met, the cat not having its needs met is causing we're preventing physical disease when we meet those needs.
Oh, okay. I lost a little bit there. Sorry about that, folks.
Yeah, sorry.
That was a transatlantic thing. Yes, so what you were talking about was you've gone through the 5 needs, and then, yes, if you don't meet those needs, why does that affect the physical health? Again, we come back to the beginning, which is this link between emotional health and physical disease. So when you have an environment that doesn't meet your needs, that means that your emotional health is compromised, because having an environment that meets your needs is what's necessary for you to be in optimal emotional balance. So to have a predominance of what we call positive or engaging emotions. And we always want those emotions to be the more predominant set of emotions. It doesn't mean that the negative emotions or the, as I call them, protective emotions are bad. Protective emotions are brilliant and necessary and essential for survival. And we don't want to live in a world that's fear-free. We want to live in a world where negative emotions are respected and negative emotions are valued for when they're necessary. But we do want our environment to optimize positive, engaging emotion. And the reason is, if your body is in a predominantly negative emotional state, so your protective emotions are firing at a higher rate than your engaging emotions, that affects your immune system. It affects your perception of pain. It affects your mucosal integrity. So every mucosal surface, your mouth, your gut, your bladder, your skin, your respiratory system, those surfaces are compromised from the chemical changes that happen when your body is in a predominantly protective emotional state for a prolonged period of time. So protective emotions should only be present when they're needed, and then they should dissipate. And if they don't, and you're in this expanded length of time, so a chronic state of high protective emotion, that chemically changes your body, and those chemical changes affect those aspects of your health, your immune system, your mucosa, and your perception of pain, and therefore it affects your health.
And I think that is mind-blowing. And 30 years ago, that was reserved for witchcraft. But we've actually done, not me, you guys have actually done the studies to prove that that is so. And I think if we take a second to think about it, we know that with our experience, that's true. That, our cat has these urinary issues over and over and over. And I did all the stuff you told me to do. I gave it the antibiotics, and it keeps happening to the point that I actually may end up choosing to euthanize the cat because I can't get it well. We know of cats that have GI problems with vomiting and diarrhea, and the workups are normal, and we can't stop it. And I just can't have liquid diarrhea all over my house, and I might actually choose, and the cats lose weight, they become cachectic. And I might choose to euthanize my cat because I believe that it is, it's suffering. And what we didn't know is that we have to at least try to give them all of those needs. And in many, many, many instances, those problems go away. That is shocking to people.
Right.
We have to remember, though, that it's a triad. Physical, emotional, and cognitive health are equally important. So again, it's always important to keep a balance, that the treatment of the physical disease from a medical point of view is just as important. But what has been missing until now is equally recognizing the input of emotion. So it's not one or the other. It's not about, and you said about witchcraft. I think one of the reasons is there's a tendency to, go, oh, well, it's all about that. No, it's not all about that. It's a physical disease, very real physical damage to the body, which needs medical treatment. But there is also a dimension of emotion and cognition. And if you only look at one piece of the equation, if you only look at one aspect, then you are going to miss things, and you're not going to have the full result. So we need to, yes, emphasize the emotion. Of course, I'm biased towards that, but we mustn't forget that the physical health component is of equal importance.
And so I just am overwhelmed every time I talk to you guys. Your breadth of knowledge is spectacular, and how you have spent your careers accumulating this science and information that are literally changing the world is awe-inspiring to me. I'm grateful to know you as friends, because I think that you're just amazing people in every way. But as professionals, the world owes you a debt of gratitude. And I mean, I think when we're locked up in our offices, we can forget that. And certainly almost always the financial reward is incongruous with the incredible work. But you are heroes, and I thank you.
But we're the clinicians. Ilona and I are both clinicians. We both work with cases at the kind of coalface, if you like, of clinical practice. But we're also indebted to the massive number of people who do research. We do clinical research, but we're indebted to the huge numbers of people who do research. I mentioned Dennis Turner from years ago. There's Kathy Karlstead from years ago. There's then people like Rachel Casey, Daniel Mills, Karen Overall. You mentioned that the names are absolutely and that body of knowledge is created by the people who do the research as well, and those of us who are clinicians are privileged to have access to that information that enables us then to use that to create the clinical service that means that people who have pets can come and see people like Ilona and myself at referral level to get that help with their clinical cases. So it's a team effort,
really.
And also a team effort with the general practitioner as well. Nobody can do this as an island. So yes, it's important to have people working at referral level in clinical terms, people working in research, but general practitioners as well. you're out there, you're dealing with these cases on a day-to-day basis, and there's so much you can do in terms of increasing awareness of this emotional command. Even if you don't feel able to do the full service with the behavior, you want to refer to somebody else, then that's absolutely brilliant, and we'd love to provide that service for you. But it's a team effort between general practitioners, specialist level researchers, all of us in it together, and the cat caregivers.
Yeah, and technicians, and
on a daily basis, they're working hard as well, and it's everyone working together that gives the results.
So you said you do see patients. I want to make sure in closing that we do a couple of things. Right now, telemedicine is an option. So even someone who is next door to me here right now, I'm in New Jersey, can have an appointment with you in the UK. How would they do that?
Basically, to email through to our office. So go to our office email, and then we can organise. For cats, definitely, we can do consults wherever. And at the moment, our restrictions are not there as they normally are in terms of what we can do, sort of prescribing and those sorts of things. It is slightly easier at the moment, but obviously that will not last forever necessarily. I'm sure telemedicine will change because of this. I'm absolutely sure it will. But yes, at the moment, we're certainly available for video consultations. So we do all our consultations at the moment during COVID. Everything's being done online, so we use video connections and do all our consulting online. And I'm sure Ilona's probably doing
that's what we do too. Everything's virtual. The only thing that I require is there has to be another veterinarian who's seen the cat within the last year.
And for us, it's slightly more than that. Actually, they need to have seen a clinician within the last 2 weeks, or had contact with a referring practice. So that is important by video, because of the health link, and because of the fact that behavioural change can have a health component. But at the moment in the UK, even general practitioners are often doing video consults as well. So that contact may not have been actually seeing a vet in person, but having had contact with a primary practice. Because
so we're thinking about pain or other metabolic problems.
Absolutely.
So because we are vets as well, we will be looking for those things as well, and we very, very commonly do diagnose the internal medicine aspects of a case as well. It's not that we don't just it's behavioural medicine. It's part of veterinary medicine. So, but we do need, because we're a referral practice, it does need to come through a general practitioner or a primary veterinary care practice.
And Ilona, you're in the US. Yeah,
it's in Wisconsin, right? Yes.
Yeah. So I'm going to put links to both of your clinics if someone wants to make an appointment, and they can talk to your staff about what requirements there are and set that up. Because this body of incredible information is generalized. But if someone is trying to help their specific cat, and they're like, well, that doesn't make sense for my cat, it might not. And seeking direct advice from the most famous people in the world is always a good idea. So I'm going to put those links.
It's always important. Behavior is contextual. So the context is always important. So, and your cat's an individual, you're an individual.
Right.
So everything has to be looked at as a case by case basis.
So if you've had that problem, or you have your friend who has that problem where they're like, I'm done, this is it. Or their husband or their roommate is like, if you don't get rid of that cat, stop before that moment. Contact one of these amazing people, and let's save a life and change a life and make a life that everyone can enjoy. And if you can't, don't get the chameleon. Just chameleon. And you guys, we've talked before about maybe doing some little snippets of general information that might be intriguing to people, and then we can find you again, because you can't talk to me for the rest of your life. You have other things to do. But I hope we can carry that out as well. And for everyone who's watching, please share. Most people do not know this, and it is mind-blowing and earth-shattering. And that's how we're gonna really help pets around the world. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Liz. I'm sorry about the technical problems. Sorry about that.
Your
devotion to getting back to us was heroic.
It was great.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.